They eat herbs like we eat salad. One of the signature ones that you're gonna see a lot is called rau rum. There's this V shape on the front and the back going through it. It's one of the more intense herbs. It's typically used raw, as in most herbs in Vietnam. Very few herbs are cooked. So next one is called saw leaf herb. Even with pho in Vietnam, this will be on the plate. When you're eating salad rolls, this will be on the plate and you'll have pieces of it. Really, the ideal strategy is to take a little bit of that herb, put it in there, put some of the bean sprouts, eat some of your noodles. Otherwise, it would overpower it for the quantity of herbs that you put in at the beginning. Like, how do I know it's fishmeat? One is this heart shape. The best way for me to describe it is take a metal table, scrub it with the green scrubby, then drag a raw fish across it, then lick it. Is that right on or what? I can't get into it either. And this is called the pandan leaf, or sometimes called the screw pine leaf. Usually in sticky rice, it's in coconut rices. Just smell it. Popcorn, jasmine rice, same aromatic compound. The last thing I'd like to try now is this yogurt. Isn't that killer? Yum. It's all condensed milk is what gives it its sweetness. Some things that you're quite familiar with, right? Dried shiitake mushroom, mandarin orange peels, dried plums. What are dried scallops for? Have you heard of XO sauce? Very typical in broth soups. You'll see it go anywhere from, this is what, $69 a pound, up to like $400 a pound. The lack of availability creates value. So everything in life is considered yin or yang or a blend of those two. And think about foods that go together, sweet and sour. What's sweet and sour? Yin and yang. You start to see things that are hot and sweet, yin and yang. This philosophy of yin and yang goes back to the 4th century. Bak kut teh actually translates as pork bone tea. So you have these herbs that are in there, lots of pork bones, lots of garlic, like whole heads of garlic in there, or cloves of garlic. And this is what you're supposed to do with pho. You take the meat, which is bland inside, you pull it out and you dip it in that and you eat it. Same thing with this bak kut teh. You take the meat out sometimes and you dip it in that soy and then you eat that. You look at the mortar that's used in Southeast Asian cuisine, in general, it's made of granite or a stone like that. Because when you pound it, every time you come down, you should hear it go thunk. And in some cuisine, especially in Malaysia, they'll use like shallots as a primary thickener for sauces because there's so many in there. These ones are more for spices and grinding, things that are made of marble. Roasted rice powder. You use this to help bind the force meat. So if you're making a dumpling, you're making a cake, you're making something that you want it to be cohesive without adding fat, add a little bit of roasted flavor to it. The components of a lob salad would be something that's minced, raw or cooked. The ones in the Northwest, they'll put like heart and kidney and spleen. It's cooked by stirring, so it's not high heat. What does all banh mi have? Banh is something that's dough or batter based. It could be a noodle, could be a crepe, could be anything. So banh mi is the bread. Some types of herbs, could be coriander, could be rau rum, could be that. Then you have the pickles that you talked about. You have the meat. There's some type of protein that's based on an animal in general. There's usually a fatty spread. The fatty spread can be a pate, it can be a mayonnaise, or it can be a butter. And then the last thing is usually some salty condiment. They'll use Maggi, like Maggi sauce, Golden Mountain. Yep. Fish sauce, or the best, really best ones is when they braise the pork, and then you take the liquid from the braised pork and you put that inside the bread. DAC-BIET, 2 words. That means extra special, or like the full thing. And this would be the Dak Viet banh mi, which means it has everything on it. There isn't, let me have a banh mi. You say, I want banh mi au plat, which is a fried egg banh mi. I want banh mi with sardine. You want banh mi with laughing cow cheese. Almost every stall has them. Truly authentic. You taste it, it's like, well, that's Vietnamese. Bún riao. Bún means noodle. It's a round rice noodle. This is a dish from Saigon, from the southern part. It has a tomato in it, but also a cake that is like a crab meat. You take raw crabs, you pound them, shell everything. Then you mix that with a broth, cold broth. The raw meat from the crab gets absorbed into the liquid. Then what you do is you strain that. So now you have shells that you discard or make something else with it, and you have this stock that has raw crab meat in it. When you heat that up, what happens, it forms a raft, and that's what you have in there. This here is a lily bud of a sort. So when you crack these bad boys open, on the inside you have different petals. So you can find these actually already pickled, or they're nice stir-fried. Just with some garlic and some oil, and that's it. Imagine what that is, right? So we have silkworm larvae. When silkworms are spent, they're putting out their silk. Then what they do is they take the larva, and why would you get rid of it? So you eat them. It's just deep fried. Not something I really like much. This is a mini clam. They're special of central Vietnam. You take the clams, you boil it in a big vat of salted water. You take a colander inside a big thing of water. You put all the clams on the inside, and then you lift up, and you do this movement like this, and what happens is the shells stay in, and the clams kind of go over the edge. You do a stir fry of onions, a little bit of garlic, the clams, and then you finish it with rau rum, sometimes some crushed peanuts, and then you eat it with rice paper. You take fresh rice paper, so a fresh rice paper noodle, take some of it and you dry it, and you grill it. So you have a crispy one, and you take a fresh one, you stick them together, and it's called ban dap. So it's crispy and chewy, and you use that to pick up the clams. You take the salted egg yolk, you put it inside a wok with some fat, and it's usually margarine, right? And you fry it with that, and it kind of bubbles up, and then you toss crab in it, you toss shrimp in it, and you have this salted egg yolk vat. We also do a salted egg yolk on pork ribs over there. Frogs are used across Asia, right? It's a cheap protein. They don't taste like chicken. I think chicken tastes like frog. The skin deep fried and crispy. It's really tasty actually. Or the meat is often stewed or fried. Probably one of the most famous dishes, let's say for Singapore for instance, is the frog porridge. So they make like gung pao, like kung pao. They do that with the frog. So you have this really intense soy, chili, sesame, ginger, garlic sauce. And then you have a really simple rice porridge. And this is served late night. You kind of go up for frog porridge. You're eating the porridge that's clean, and then you get those frogs that's intense. It's quite a dish. What you're eating there is something called bun bo wei. Bun is the noodle, bo is the beef, Hue is the central city in Vietnam. It used to be the imperial city. The broth is made first with a combination of pork and beef, lemongrass. They use a lot of annatto to color their foods, and bun bo wei would be one example of it. But what's amazing about annatto in that culture is you're able to make things look rich and like, wow, but it's not too hot. After it simmers, at the end you add shrimp paste. You've got 3 different proteins in here. They've got the cha lu, which is basically a pork sausage. And then they've got pork blood, and it's just blood that coagulates naturally, and a little bit of the beef that looks like they're using brisket in this one. We have crab. She said it's her style of doing it, I don't know. So what we're eating now is the pork that's simmered in the soy sauce and the coconut water, right now coconut milk. It's got the hard-boiled egg and the tofu, and sometimes it's served with something cold. It might be the cucumber, or it might be some type of pickle. And it's delicious, whatever it is.